This is a loaded episode today.
Yeah, this is, there's a lot of feelings around this one.
This is therapy inducing.
Correct.
And I think we can talk a lot about this because of therapy, that we go to therapy.
Yes, sponsored by therapy.
Sponsored by therapy. Because today we're returning the notion that you already have your support system in place, and or you have your support system when you start your business.
Correct.
And that's
you don't usually.
Not true. And that's so a tough return.
Hi, I'm Jordyn.
And I'm Sara. And we're both successful serial entrepreneurs who believe the world is way better with more. More women-owned businesses, more wealth, more magic, and more champagne. But before we can add more, we need to return old business ideas that are taking up too much space in our lives.
Enter The Refund, our content series for folks who are looking to return old storylines, concepts, and habits that no longer serve their life and business. Each episode, we're going to cover one topic, share 3 key takeaways, and we're going to receive a refund on what is no longer fitting the bill. # no receipts required.
Listen and watch The Refund on YouTube and wherever you love to listen to podcasts.
You don't want to return this one.
You're right. I wish this wasn't what it is.
Yeah, it's like the shirt you really want to keep, but you've never worn it, or it doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit quite right.
It doesn't fit right. And you're like, but I want it. But
I want it to work, but it's not working.
You got to it's better off to just get the funds and get a different shirt.
Get the refund and go find that network. So
yes.
I think we all, as entrepreneurs, as founders, as CEOs, understand the importance of a killer network.
Yes.
A killer network is your Avengers.
Yes.
Your A-team. Those people are paramount in making your business run.
Yes.
And not even making your business run or your brand take off, but like keeping you sane as a founder.
Right. And leveling with you.
Yes.
So you don't feel insane when something happens, or it normalizes things that maybe people who don't have businesses can understand.
Yes.
Just like I don't know what if a doctor's has had a hard day, I won't necessarily know what that's
You can't
like,
understand that, right? So you need your people.
Yes.
And I think what was very surprising for me was when I started my business, I didn't realize that I had a huge gap in this space, because I consider my network, my inner circle, so supportive of me and excited for me and my cheerleaders. And I quickly found out that I did not have the right people in place.
Well, it's just an assumption. You assume that like that circle is transferable to all parts of your life. When in theory, like it's almost like you have these niches of people, niches of people, where it's like, I have these people for this part of my life, this for this part of my life. But yeah, when you start a business, you usually don't have that. You're like, oh shit, now what?
Oh shit, now what?
And it's hard enough to start a business, but then to not know who to go to makes starting a business, I think, even harder. And the challenges you face, you spiral even more, because it's hard to feel as if you're moving forward or if you're progressing at all.
That was totally me at the beginning of my business, where I was really the first person in my social circle. I had left my corporate career, which means I left that network.
And the
stayed in touch.
Of that, of, well, why would you leave this like really cushy job and you were doing so well? Like there's that. So you have the projection of that, challenging the status quo, such as a woman. Yep.
Absolutely. And so there's some, family that comes in on that front, losing stability. Like, what are you doing? You lose what was that coworker circle. I didn't see them anymore every day. They're all still seeing each other every day. I'm not there. So you kind of lose that like colleague network.
That family feel.
Yes.
That, a job would give you.
I was alone. I was alone at home working. And that in and of itself naturally was lonely. Now everyone's working from home in a different way. But at the time, I was the only person that I knew that was staying home and working.
Yes.
And like not working because I didn't know what I was doing. I was like trying to figure it out. I wasn't sure. So it's already feeling lonely. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know if this is imposter syndrome or what, but I just assumed everyone that I saw on social media or even at like a co-working space, I just thought everyone knew what they were doing and I was lacking a secret.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I just want to know what they know. I just want the answers. Can someone just tell me? And like, now, of course, it's very clear that there is no secret. There is no answer.
Yeah.
That's doing the work, right? You got to figure that out for yourself. But I felt it was so isolating and lonely.
Yeah. Yes.
And Brené Brown talks a lot about, listening to or not listening to the people who are or are not in your ring.
Oh, in the arena.
In the arena.
Where it's like you can't listen to the feedback from the people in the nosebleeds.
Yeah, nosebleeds. And it's true. And I didn't have anyone in the arena.
Yes.
I had people chirping at me that even if they weren't in the nosebleeds,
they were
not playing my game. Like
they were selling the popcorn.
They weren't
what
playing
I mean?
the game I was playing.
Yeah.
And they just didn't get it. Like even my partner, my husband. And that was so hard for me. I really struggled.
Yeah, it's such a humbling experience that you can't avoid, sadly. It's going to happen, and you just have to have the awareness of it that we can hopefully give people, is the awareness of, yeah, you are going to start a thing that challenges the status quo, and in your mind, that's going to make people feel uncomfortable because you're, in theory, going to change.
Yeah.
Business owners change and adapt at such an accelerated pace because you're expected to grow really fast and figure things out as you go. It's a different kind of skill set that you're building, and that makes people uncomfortable.
And it's rare. It's not, most of my friend group, like most of what I would call my colleagues now, we're all entrepreneurs, self-starters. So now I have this network. But before I established that, nobody else was really doing that in my personal world.
Yeah, it's like you have this group of like forever cheerleaders that it's like, some of your family members, your close friends. But even some of those close friends, sadly with me, I've seen so many of my relationships transform. I think for the better.
Yeah.
Because it's, I've changed, and instead of celebrating the changes that I've made or, supporting me through this, season of my life, you're instead going to treat me different because I've made you uncomfortable.
Interesting.
Because I've put myself out there and you haven't, and therefore there's this weird tension that shouldn't be.
Interesting.
And I truly think that that's really what it is there's a projection piece, or because I'm changing, maybe our relationship's different and I see our relationship different. And maybe they don't like that version of me, and that's okay.
Right.
But that is so hard to deal with when it's, certain relationships, partnerships that at first they're a tough pill to swallow, but depending on the relationship, they in theory will transform with you, and you would hope that they get better over time. And most of them do. But there's going to be a couple where you're like, this hurts because you're close. Like, I expected this from someone in my outer circle or even a stranger, but like from somebody close to me, like this one hurts because there's something going on that you didn't want to be happy for me, or I changed.
So wildly disappointing.
For women
that is
too.
Heartbreaking when someone you thought was going to be rah-rah with you can't show up that way.
And especially for women, it's like there's a perception about women that I feel like the patriarchy wants us to compete against each other, and it still rings true for a reason because it still happens. But I think that's
it's like Mean Girls.
Totally Mean Girls. And I was of the mindset after a couple experiences that were really hurtful. One, therapy, but two, I just decided, like, you know what, I'm going to start meeting people, and I'm just going to put myself out there, and it's all in the spirit of just like meeting new people who get it and that are just as excited as when I, have a big thing happen in my business and something happens with their business, or I hire them. Like that was something I immediately did when I started a business, was like, how can I hire more women that I like and I like their work so then I can have them in my orbit and not just like take their time. I mean, obviously there's times for coffee, but
of course.
There were always times where it was like, how can I hire this person, even if they're like a coach or for Pinterest or whatever it was. Like that's how I was really starting to surround myself, was hiring them.
So you and I have very similar trajectories in that we identified this gap. We felt a lack on some front.
Yes.
And you and I both set out to fill that gap with the right people.
Yeah.
So, and I think we did it similarly in that we would network or grab coffees. You just cold...
can we tell them our love story?
You cold DM'd me. She slid into my DMs. And you said, I just would love to meet you. Like you knew that we were both in Minneapolis.
Yep.
You introduced yourself as the founder and owner of Mend, and that you'd like to gift me a piece of jewelry and buy me a drink and just chat.
Yep.
And I didn't even care about the jewelry. That was an exciting bonus because I loved your work.
Yes.
But I was so excited to have a real conversation with another woman who got it, which at that time, had I already started the Mary Hour?
So that's how I found you, was
Got
through
it.
the Mary Hour.
Okay.
I saw the Mary Hour, and then I saw you, and before I bought a ticket, I was like, I'm also kind of in the market for a designer, and it'd be good to know somebody outside of the agency
Cool.
designers
Got it.
that I knew. So branch out.
So fascinating. So I was in the process of meeting new people, but I had also co-founded and launched a brand called the Mary Hour, and it was really what we called was better than happy hour. It was a networking group for women. It is. It's amazing. COVID canceled all of that, and we just have other humans and things going on. Rachel, my co-founder, and I are in like baby making mode.
Yes.
And so we need to get back into that. But me founding the Mary Hour was just one of the ways that I was like, I don't have this network that I need. My needs are not being met from my circle for whatever reason.
Yep.
At no fault of theirs, by the way.
It's just
the reality.
Transformational. You're going
Not
through a
in my
transformation.
arena.
Totally.
I needed people in my arena.
Yeah.
So I co-founded the Mary Hour to help fill some of those gaps. And I loved Jordyn's cold DM.
Sales.
Megan Larson also did that. She DM'd me. And these are some of my favorite people to just brainstorm with and talk about business and just ideate with. It's hard. It's so hard. So we got together and we met, and it felt, I just remember leaving. We went to the Hewing.
Yes,
we
you were
had
not drinking. You were like,
that's right. It was dry January.
Yeah, it was dry January, and I was like,
Lame.
I was like, respect, but okay.
Who is this chick?
And I was like, I'm gonna have a cocktail.
Bitch. Yeah. We had, but thank God they have good mocktails at least.
Yeah.
We had drinks,
Yeah.
and I just remember leaving that like, oh, she gets it. I have someone in my corner that I can connect with. And I mean, I'll be really honest. I had a hard time not feeling support from Will, my husband, in a way that I assumed he would support me. And that caused some problems. And it was just really hard. It was crushing, just similar to your friends. It was very crushing. And it took me a long time, and being introduced to Esther Perel, who talks a lot about.
She helps.
She's a helper. She talks a lot about, which we kind of touched on earlier, like one person cannot be all of your things.
Correct.
All of your things.
Oh my God, we got to return that idea.
Yes.
Especially spouses. I think there's this concept sold that your soulmate, your partner, whatever, has to be everything all the time, and that's just not fair.
That's not fair. That's expecting so much.
Totally.
And so it was less about, it was, for me at that time, because I don't feel this way now, at that time it was, I had unspoken and probably unrealized expectations as to how I needed Will to show up, or how I thought Will should show up, that were unrealistic. I had never voiced, but I couldn't figure out, like, why aren't you jumping for joy for me for closing this new client? Instead, you're just asking about the next one. And we've talked about it since, and he has this probably larger undying belief in myself than I do, which is hard to believe that's even possible. But he holds me at such a high standard that sometimes when I just need somebody to be like, oh yes, Sarah,
that was
hard.
awesome. Yeah, sometimes it's all you need.
Exactly. That I don't necessarily get that from him.
Yeah.
And finding the women that, you know, we've met through the Mary Hour, through co-working spaces, has just alleviated some of that heartache that I was assuming my inner circle should solve for.
Right.
Which isn't appropriate to ask that of them.
Totally. Just as,
and it's okay that if it's not there. Now, also, this is very different than somebody being flat out unsupportive.
Correct.
That is not what we're talking about today.
Correct.
Those people fucking suck and they need to go.
Yeah, if you're not supportive of your spouse running a business, like you date, you marry an entrepreneur, it's gonna come with, you know, a lot of pros and cons, but not being, you know, supportive, respectful, encouraging is not okay. There's a line.
There's a line.
Yeah.
And that's very different than somebody who maybe just can't show up how you need them to because literally they don't get it.
Right.
That's what I feel like.
He didn't have the perspective. Because if you're not in it.
And that's not his fault.
No, totally. And I even think just this dynamic between men and women in general is just, this is so, it's just so relatable, of the idea of just like, sometimes we have expectations about how we want someone to show up or respond.
Yes.
And then we're like, but why didn't you show up? And they're like, I had no idea.
You're like, what? I think literally that's what I was doing. And like in my mind, I had written this story.
We've all done it. We've all done that.
Of like how your spouse should show up for you when you're starting a business. But I was forgetting that like the amount of risk he's taking on, the amount of fear he potentially could have had, right? And like, it's a very scary and intimate thing. My failure directed, or my success, it's all been successful, has directly impacted his life.
Yes, and so that's
and
a thing
his
too.
livelihood. Like
Yes.
he's got skin in the game on that front.
100%. And now, like, that's a good example of like expectations weren't met, assumptions were made, and then it's like you two figured it out, and now it's transformed into a relationship
Totally.
where you now know, the boundaries that you two are within, where it's like the expectations you had aren't realistic. So now you figured out, okay, these are the people I go to for X, Y, and Z,
Yes.
and then this is what I go to him for. That's so fascinating. Yeah, the idea of a supportive partner, the bar has been set so high for me because my husband, when we were dating before I had started my business. And I just remember when I decided to go do men full time or even started part time, no questions. He was like, I'm in, let's go. And
His
then
enthusiasm and like wanting to participate
Yes.
is like through the roof.
he is such an empath, and he's so emotionally intelligent, and that's where I feel like I struggle.
Yes.
So he's a very emotional support.
He's a Libra
partner.
like me.
100%.
Yeah.
So like that was already in my favor, but in the beginning it was really hard. And what I would do is like monthly, him and I would check in. I would say, hey, are you still bought in this? I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of weekends. You're helping me like set up tents, move tables, do a lot of bullshit. Like this is my bullshit. This is what's coming with being with somebody and potentially marrying an entrepreneur. And he was like, you are so great. I cannot wait to get a Tesla because I know you're going to be successful. Like
Right.
he has believed in me before I've believed in myself.
Yes.
And I know that that's rare, but it's funny when I hear about unsupportive partners, I'm like, leave him. I'm like, but that's unrealistic because I have a gem. And it's not to say there's been times where he's now put up boundaries where he's like, no, I won't do that. Like,
Right.
Like we've set up boundaries, but at first like he still is very supportive. But again, our kind of partnership has transformed now into, he's the one that's like, your prices should be higher. Like he is a tried and true feminist, but that's been a couple years of telling him what feminism is and how do you advocate for us. And he's truly an ally, but yeah, he's been supportive and throughout the entire journey. But yeah, that support is transformed, and I've put up boundaries because he can't be everything all the time. I can't rely on him for, cash flow management. Like he doesn't know what to do. He's in sales. Like he's teaching me how to be a better saleswoman. So like we have our partners to serve a certain purpose, but not
every purpose.
Correct for your business. And you cannot rely on them for everything all the time because they're going to get burnt out, and then they're not going to want to help you or support you in your business. And it's got to be balanced.
It has to be balanced. And I think this goes beyond having like a romantic relationship or partner.
Friendships, yeah.
Friendships too. I have just this out of this world network of girlfriends, close girlfriends from a young age, junior high, high school, who have been nothing but, it's who I'm calling when I say I've surpassed my revenue goals, or I just closed this contract, or I had an XYZ month. The raw cheering support, never ending outpouring of love is like, I didn't face anyone who I felt wasn't excited for me in that social network standpoint. And so I think too, it's identifying the different types of people that you need for different things, for different supportive. Like those were the people that I could call for big, loud celebration, right?
Where you're like, this is a big deal.
Yes.
Can you verify this is a big deal?
And they're going to scream with me. And then, of course, there are people that I call when I'm like, this is a problem. I need help. I don't understand how to work through this, or
I'm having a hard day.
I'm having a hard day. I'm quitting
words.
everything.
Yes,
like
today's the day. I go back and get a job.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
We've all been there.
Or like the person that, like, I know when I'm not ready to hear any sort of criticism whatsoever, I call my mom.
Yeah.
She's just going to be like, everything you do is amazing. You are the best human that was ever made. Like she just, that mom, like overflowing love of like greatness, right? Like she's not who I call when I need a check.
Absolutely.
Because she's not going to give it to me, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's really identifying those key people that you need to have in your arena.
Yes.
And where are your gaps?
Yes.
And are those gaps that you need filled? Or are those conversations you need to have with existing people?
Right.
Or are those people do you have people that you need to cut? Like some duds. Sometimes there's duds that you gotta go.
And you can do it in a kind way where it's just setting up boundaries. And I've done that. And like, you'd be so surprised, like the weight that is lifted. And then you make room for the people that you want to have in your life. And also too, I think the concept of networking feels really stuffy, which I thought the Mary Hour did a really good job of kind of ripping the rug underneath it. Is this doesn't have to be like you go to an event and you wear a blazer and you pass out business cards. Like, that's not what I mean. It's truly just like
sliding into a DM.
Slide into someone's DMs. When I first started Mend, that was a piece of advice I got was you need to email 5 new people that you haven't met with a day and see if they'll meet with you. In my first month I had like 40 coffee meetings. And I would say like 3 or 4 were like super awkward. And I was like, this was a mistake and I'm never going to talk to this person again.
That's funny.
And then some of them are like people that are mentors and are like lifelong friends. And it was just like, hey, you're really interesting. I want to meet you. I'll buy you a cup of coffee. Like, it doesn't have to be this stuffy thing where you literally don't need anything from somebody.
Right.
You're just like, I want to buy you a cup of coffee.
Let's have a conversation.
Yes. I love the business you have.
And it's like, it's kind of like dating.
Totally.
It's like you kind of need to date these people that you're really going to let into your business world to know if it's the right fit or not. And I think that's one of the things when I worked with my first business coach, the first thing we needed to work on was this relationship thing that a lot of what I was projecting, like a lot of this was just me. And then it was, who are the gaps in your Avengers, in your network, in your A team that we need to plug in? And doing this cutie little dating thing is such a great way to meet those people. It's so much more fun.
And it's like, and also too, it's like you can meet these people just like the internet through referrals of people, but also like, I know if I'm going to like somebody, you're going to love this. If I like their brand. So like, or their business, or if I see them at an event and I'm like, oh my God, I love your products. I'm going to buy your stuff. I also want to, you know, grab coffee with you or happy hour, because you know that person is probably like, oh my God, someone in my world. Like I think about that all the time. The amount of times like people have asked me for coffee. I'm like, I feel like, okay, the site, it's coming full circle.
Yes.
And I always just tell people, like anytime I make time for someone to have coffee with them, they're like, can I do anything for you? And I'm like, just pay it forward. Just reach out to somebody. Or if someone reaches out to you, make time for them.
Yeah.
Go get coffee with them. Just continue the cycle, because there's someone who's just starting a business and feels really isolated.
Yes.
And we've all been there, and it's super hard. And, you know, 95% of the time, most people want to help you. And I think majority of those meetings are going to be great.
Yeah.
It's going to be a couple duds here and there, going to be super awkward. I've probably had enough awkward coffee meetings for the both of us.
Yeah, that's so funny. I think I shy away from that.
Yeah.
You do a good job of putting yourself out there on that front.
Yeah, I've met with a lot of people. A lot
Good for you.
of
That's
people.
so fun.
Yeah, I just don't care. I'm just like, let's meet.
do it.
Let's do it.
And I think too, an aside here is you've never positioned this, and I think your model here that you're talking about is very different than, hey, can I pick your brain?
Oh yeah, totally.
To me, that is, you know, asking for like free shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, can I pick? Yeah. No,
that's what
none
we're
of us
talking
are
about.
working for free. I'm not giving you a free try.
That's not what this is. This is literally trying to find mutually beneficial relationships.
Totally.
And how you can serve them and how they can serve you.
Yes.
You literally were like, Sarah, there was something that you saw in me that you were like, I feel like I have just as much to give to this chick as maybe I could get from this relationship. It felt very mutually beneficial.
Yes.
And it was, and it has been.
Totally. It was like, I feel like she knows people. She feels like she could be a good connector for me. And it wasn't like, hey, can you give me some design stuff? And yeah, to me, it's more like, I want to hear more about your story.
Yeah.
That's always like when someone reaches out to me and was like, I really want to hear more about your story and how you got to where you are. And I'm thinking about starting a business. Like that stuff, like I live and breathe. Like if I can help you and just share my story and vice versa, or if you're looking to get connected to somebody, like happy to do it. But the like, can I pick your brain for 30 minutes? I'm usually like, what is it that you need?
Right.
Like, what is it? Am I the right person? If not, like, I'm going to send you to somebody else. Be super clear too if it is something like that. If you want to get super specific, it's just going to make the person say yes faster. Because it is weird reaching out to somebody. I've had tons of people like never respond, but that doesn't stop me. It's like, and some people won't make time and that's okay. But you got to just be super clear on the intention of, it's about connection. Yeah. And filling those gaps, and you'll find those people. And you'd be surprised they're looking for you too. Exactly. I think that's exactly what it was for me. It was like, it's like she knew I needed her too. Because damn it, this is lonely. It's so lonely, and it doesn't have to be. Correct. It doesn't have to be. I don't think it's lonely at the top. I think I think we're all we all get to the top of our mountains, but we can like wave and make friends with the other people at their mountains. Yeah, like, we can all go to each other's mountains. Yes. I think that's the analogy there.
Maybe there's like gondolas.
Yeah, I like totally went like monk route where it's like.
Do you want a gondola to my mountain?
Yeah, I love that.
This is getting cut out. So really, I think one key takeaway I really want us to address today is starting a business is really hard.
Yep.
And entrepreneurship is so hard and it can feel isolating, but it doesn't have to. So just because you don't have the network right now doesn't mean that you won't have the network.
Yep.
And maybe that's really what this episode is about. We dove in, it's hard, and that's okay. That's really okay. Just because you don't have the people now doesn't mean you won't, but it does mean you have to go find them.
Yeah, it's going to be work, but if you kind of take it as a challenge and you know that the end result is you're going to be surrounded by really awesome people and continue to like add them, and you be surprised how many people know each other, like it's worth all of the emails and sliding into people's DMs to see if they'll meet you for coffee.
Yes. I think the second key takeaway for today is that one person shouldn't and can't be all of your people.
Yes.
They can't fulfill all of your needs. And that doesn't mean that they're failing you. It just means that there are other things that you need to find that person to help fulfill that need.
Absolutely. And I think the third thing is when you're starting to build your kind of collective of people, have an open mind, and the intention should be to connect and not to waste people's time, take something. And if you're really, make sure there's truly an intention to connect with them because you feel as if you two have something that you can mutually exclusively share with one another. And that it's beyond what feels like a business transaction, that it's truly something that's going to serve you long term and that you want them kind of in your orbit. And it's okay if not everybody fits that mold.
I love that. Like and subscribe. You can watch us on YouTube. Leave a comment below. Do you feel like you have your network? Are you still building your A-team?
Who are you looking for?
Yeah, who are you looking? That's a good one because then maybe people can connect.
Yeah.
Follow and subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're on all of the social medias.
Yes.
We would love to hear your thoughts. Good luck building your A-team.